Well, as the rapper Ice Cube once said, today was a good day. The Oklahoma Sooners 55-17 over 11th rated Texas in the Red River Rivalry. And for the second straight year, the Sooners walk away with the Golden Hat Trophy, taking that back to Norman OK. And for the Sooners, I know that the BCS standings will come out pretty soon, but to me it doesn't matter because LSU and Alabama will play each other later in the year. Winner of that game probably plays in the national championship game. The loser of that game is out. And as long as Oklahoma runs the table to be a perfect 12-0, they will play in the national championship game no matter what Boise State or Stanford or what Wisconsin does. Won't matter because the Sooners will be playing for the national championship in New Orleans January 9th. It's that plain and simple. So right now the polls don't care about them because the Sooners control their own destiny. I shouldn't say I don't care, but I'm not investing a lot of my time and energy and thoughts into those polls. Sooners are taking care of business on the field. That's all that matters. Bob Stoops, you know what? Don't ever underestimate him. This was a fantastic week of preparation against Manny Diaz's Texas defense and against Brian Harsin's creative offense. The Sooners on both sides of the ball in control, and it was a Bevo blowout on this Saturday at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. Bob Stoops, excellent job as the Sooners take care of the Texas Longhorns. Let's go ahead and go over the 5 keys to the game that I talked about earlier in the week on the Weekly Matchup Show. Key number 1. Key number 1, Oklahoma protect Landry Jones, and thus opportunities will arise. An A for Oklahoma, a big A. Texas's defense, we knew coming in, Manny Diaz, we knew this defense would take chances. They would take risks. Sometimes it's an all-or-nothing defense. And even though they tried their hardest to get to Landry Jones, Oklahoma was ready, and the Sooners were able to have wide-open receivers, especially terrific matchups against the inexperienced corners of the Longhorns. Ryan Broyles, statistically, a big day. Good for him. Also, Kenny Stills, I thought he'd be an unsung hero. How about the job he did? 2 touchdowns against the Texas secondary. Landry Jones was outstanding. Over 300 yards passing in the first half. And I don't know if he's going to win the Heisman Trophy, but I think a performance like this gets him at least back into the Heisman race. Keeps playing like this, he'll at least get an invite to New York City. It'd be a shock if he didn't. But the Sooner passing game on all cylinders on Saturday. Texas didn't stand a chance. Key number 2 I talked about was Dominic Whaley. I'm going to go B in this situation, and it's not all Dominic's fault because in that first half, give Texas credit, they limited Dominic Whaley. They really did, hitting him hard. Whaley could not muster a whole lot of room, but in the second half we saw on that play in which Whaley got on the outside, it was all over, 64 yards for a touchdown as Whaley found some space and made Texas pay for it. But I thought in the first half you had to give Texas credit for really limiting Oklahoma's rush offense. The Sooners ended up in this game having under 100 yards rushing, but it was the passing game predominantly that held true for Oklahoma, not the rushing attack. So I go B for Dominic Whaley. Huge key. Key number 3. I talked about this. Ashes to ashes. The real McCoy 2. Oklahoma, be prepared. A+ for the Sooners. 5 turnovers Oklahoma forced. 5. Case McCoy fumbled twice. One of those fumbles picked up, ran back for a touchdown by David King. And David Ash, we mentioned that Brian Harsin's offense would feature 2 quarterbacks, Case McCoy, Colt's brother, and then the true freshman, David Ash. Ash throwing 2 interceptions, 1 to Tony Jefferson, his 4th in 2 games, and a big play by DeMontre Hurst late in the second quarter with OU leading 20-3, running back an interception for a touchdown, and made it 27-3. The Oklahoma defense made life miserable for the 2 quarterbacks. And when Texas tried to trick plays, they'd be for minimal or no success whatsoever. So for the Sooners, for that front 7, so proud of the way that Frank Alexander and Ronell Lewis held their own. And Travis Lewis was a defensive menace on this day. And the secondary Can't say enough about them. And, how about the play that Fleming made? Jamel Fleming in the second half, stripping the ball from a Texas receiver and running it all the way back for a touchdown. Granted, the game was already decided at that point, but that was a cherry on top of the sundae, and it was another touchdown for Oklahoma on defense. 3 touchdowns for the Sooner defense. Most they've ever had in one game in the more than 100-year history of the program. So the Oklahoma defense, an A+ against Brian Harsin's offense. Key number 4, Oklahoma beat Texas. Don't beat yourself. Another A, and we've already talked about this. In fact, I go A+, because Texas entered this game as one of the best teams in the country when it came to takeaway margin, +6, but on Saturday at the Cotton Bowl, it was a -4, and would have been a -5 if not for a very late fumble in the game by Brandon Williams, and was with 2 minutes to go, and the game was 55-17, which would end up being the final. It was one of the most superb games you're going to see Oklahoma play when it comes to creating opportunity, and they did that. They did not beat themselves. As a matter of fact, they forced those turnovers on Saturday. And then key 5, Saturday special, talking about the special teams. I am going to be a little hard on Oklahoma in this situation, and I'm going to grade them a C. Even though Michael Honeycutt came through early on with his 2 field goal attempts, took a couple of chip shots when the Sooners couldn't punch it in the red zone because of Texas' stingy D in the first quarter, I give Oklahoma a C because of not being able to cover a kickoff. The 10th kickoff return for a touchdown Oklahoma has surrendered since 2008. It didn't hurt them today. Somewhere along the line, it might. I don't know what Oklahoma, what else they can do, what else the Sooners can do to simply defend a kickoff. Fawcett Whitaker, and by the way, if there's one player from Texas I thought that gave it his all, it was number 2 for Texas, Fawcett Whitaker. Injury-riddled career for the Longhorns. I thought he played his heart out today, provided the Longhorns with one of only 2 touchdowns they scored, running one back 100 yards for a touchdown, and the Sooners just about gave up another one for a touchdown. Got called back, thankfully, because of an illegal block penalty. I believe it was a hold, as a matter of fact. Somewhere along the line, Oklahoma, you're going to have to be able to cover kickoffs, because one day you're playing Oklahoma State, you're playing A&M, maybe even Kansas State, it can come back and cost you the game. So that was the one area, the only area really I could see where I could nitpick Oklahoma, but at some point, that's going to bite you if it's not corrected. So for the Sooners, 5-0 on the season, should be a scrimmage next week, a Saturday night game, late Saturday kickoff, 8 o'clock against Kansas, and the Turner Gill watch is on. Kansas gets absolutely embarrassed by Oklahoma State, 70-28. In fact, I think it was like 63-14 at halftime or something like that. And I don't know how much longer Kansas is going to be patient with Turner Gill, because Kansas is flat out terrible, especially on defense. But that's who Oklahoma will play next week. Oklahoma's next true big game will be in 3 weeks when they go to Kansas State, who again continues to win. If you took a straw poll right now, you'd have to say that Bill Snyder will be Coach of the Year in the Big 12 for the job he's done against Kansas State. They won again on Saturday, defeating Missouri. For Texas, it doesn't get easier because you go against an offensive juggernaut against Oklahoma State next week in your own backyard. You thought Oklahoma was good on offense, Texas. Oklahoma State is going to be just as difficult to defend, and OSU has a better ground attack right now than Oklahoma. So for the Sooners, second straight time they've defeated Texas in the Red River Rivalry. 55-17 your final. Oklahoma, an outstanding job. And, of course, anytime they win, it's sweet, but it's even sweeter when you can defeat your rivals from the Lone Star State. Boomer Sooner.